Good morning, my name is Edward Wells. I'm going over the very common portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart. The media is a oil on canvas painting. As we can see here, back in 1795, Gilbert Stuart started this unfinished portrait of George Washington. However, it became so popular that he created multiple versions of this one being one of them. We can see through an outline of his body, of course, through his black suit jacket of sorts, to the lighter but still very dark background around him. Of course, we have what seems to be like an outside view, or maybe like an opening to this drapery of sorts, which could be that George Washington is in front of for this said portrait. We can also see the use of chiaroscuro through, we see of course, a lot more lit face of George Washington. You can see the whites, the primary colors of his red cheeks. So of course the background, which is of course a lot more darker than the rest of his body, comparing also to his midsection, his torso. For this painting as a whole, however, we don't see much hue besides, like I said, the primary color of George Washington's cheeks on his face, which show a more red, potentially secondary color to see a more pinkish of sorts. But if we look here at the bottom left corner, we can see a more darker violet. There is some black in there as well, but we don't count that as a color. But we can see some secondary violet colors as well to maybe show that he is maybe outside. Gilbert Stuart could have seen this as maybe a darker time in George Washington's life. Perhaps maybe he pictured this to be during the War of the American Revolution. With the theory of Rothko by Isaac Newton, as we previously stated, by the bottom left corner, as we see through the secondary color violets, and the all-around darkness of George Washington, besides his more well highlighted face, we can see the more colder temperatures, perhaps maybe colder, maybe in a sense more of he's older now, he's perhaps maybe he is in the middle of the war, or perhaps after. We could see maybe through his facial expressions that he is tired, maybe perhaps even done with what he's done so far and in the past, and maybe he's ready to retire as a total. So with Rothko, like I said, colder temperatures, we can also get emotional with that by looking at his facial expressions, which show the very opposite of happiness, or maybe he's just serious. A lot of people back then didn't really smile. We can see, of course, that this is not one of the many valiant pictures of George Washington, of him riding on a horse or on a boat in a river to go fight the British, of course, in the American Revolution. Perhaps maybe we can say this is after the war, or maybe towards the end, or maybe the very beginning, because we can see through these darker tempered colors that maybe things aren't okay in his life currently. As we can see through this drape, maybe it's potentially a drape of sorts, a curtain. He could be outside, maybe inside, however Stuart wanted to portray this portrait of George Washington. Textures, or visual textures we can see, because of course I probably couldn't touch this painting. It is of course very smooth, maybe a little scratchy. I really don't want to touch it because I want to get in trouble. But in general, we can see that George Washington looks older compared to many of his photos and paintings, compared to other artists, and especially with channels like National Geographic, we show him to be very valiant, very brave, very strong. And in my, artistic opinion, we can see that he is not any of that right now in this portrait. We can see that maybe, like previously, that the anger, the resentment, that maybe he's very tired. This is probably after the war, after all. And we see maybe he is in the White House currently after the war. We became independent as a nation. And we can see maybe as this drape is closing down on him, we can see maybe this is the end of his career, his life. As we can see, many of these paintings were made before or close to his death. So this could be this drape here covering over him in the background could be the end of his life.